Hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are well. I can't believe another month is gone and we're down to my March wrap up already. So I'm actually filming this a week ahead of this planning to go out. So I have a few books because I need to return them to the library, and also there will be some that they won't make it into this video properly because I started a few. So they might be either in next month's video or I'll do separate videos in the meantime to my April favourites. I hope that makes sense. So I read 6 books in March, and then I also started another like 4 or 5. So I'm just going to go through the ones that you might see over the next few weeks into April and the ones I started, and then I will go through the rundown of the books I read in March. I'm just going to start with ones that I have started. So you would have seen in one of my previous videos, I got this one in Daunt Books. It is Lazy City by Rachel Connolly. It's set in Ireland. I'm not going to lie, it's not setting my world on fire, and I love Irish novels. It's a very slow one, so I'm just getting through that. And then the fact I've started this, I think this is the 3rd or 4th time I've attempted this now. It is Spilt Milk by Amy Beashall. The second person narrative is just weirding me out, and I think it's the fact it's about a mum thinks she's regretting having her child and she's expecting another. So it's really putting me on edge, but we need books like this to make us feel uncomfortable, to address these kinds of issues. So I'm determined to get through this because I paid full cover price and the paperback's out. So I'm like, damn, I just want to read it so I don't like see it everywhere. So I'm getting through that. And then I've got another 2, 3 here. This one, I started it a few weeks ago after one of the books I just read in my March favourite. Why do I keep calling it favourites? I've had to edit this out so many times. March wrap up. This is Force of Hate. It is the second in the series of the Bad for Good series. Yeah, I hoped to read this in order to catch up with the arc I had of the 3rd book, which has now come out. But I don't know if I'll finish this. We'll see. But it is like really gory. And then I got this one from the library after the event I went to from seeing this author, and it is Wet Paint by Chloe Ashby. I read Second Self in February. I think that was in my February favourites wrap up, and then I got this one because it sounds really good and I think I might like this a little bit more. I don't know why, I just have a feeling. And then finally, I literally started this last night, and I have this thing where I think if I'm not enjoying a book, or it's a sign if I'm not enjoying a book, if I have loads on the go at once, and I think that's what's happening here. But this one, Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, this was in my 12 for 2024 I want to read. I read a little bit last night. I say a little bit, it's like 15% or something according to my Goodreads. So this, I just know I'm going to love it. So I think this will get finished before all of those. So yeah, they're the ones I'm currently reading that may be in next month. Let's get into my March wrap up. Nice. So the first book on my list is Bad for Good by Graham Bartlett. I first came across him at the Harrogate Crime Writing Festival, book festival last July in Harrogate, and it was amazing. I had such a good time. I'll link it in the corner. I did video that, I filmed it or whatever, or like my little reviews and stuff. And I want to be there every year. I can't this year, I'm away. But this, I loved it so much. And then he was there advertising his book, the Force of Hate one, actually, the blue one I just showed you. And this, I thought, okay, I'll start because it's part of a trilogy. His recent book came out, the final one of it, and I started it, the Bad for Good one. And it basically, we're introduced to the lead, Jo Howe. I can't remember if she's like a detective inspector. She's one of them, but it's basically inspired by his time in the police, because I think he's literally just retired like a couple of weeks ago, and he was in the police for Sussex or something. The whole series provides like a realistic insight into the police force, and then some of the corruption he's experienced as well, and it sounds mad. And some of the stories, I say stories, they're people's lives and the crimes he's had to deal with. It's violent, it's gory, it made me squirm at times, and yeah, it's just everything I didn't think it would be. I started this on I think it was like before 8 a.m. or something, when I was commuting on the train into the London office for work, and yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Make sure you start in the afternoon or evening or something, because this is not a book for that. And I was reading it on my Kindle, and I was like, oh, it's not even 8 a.m. and I'm reading this stuff about stabbings and all that kind of jazz. Is not jazzy. But let me tell you, it's been a while since I've been that shocked and surprised by a book in a good way. I'm glad I read it, so much so I'm reading the second one, but I've got loads of other books on the go as well. That was really good, and I am determined to finish this trilogy. Really compelling, but just be prepared for the gore and violence in it too. This next one, this is only going to be a few seconds, but it's also like, when will I learn that maybe BookTok books are not my kind of thing? I've seen this everywhere. I'm not going to draw on this too much. This just wasn't my vibe. I'm just going to leave it there. Otherwise, this will be a really nasty review. Basically, it's not my kind of book. Now, this next one, I think so many people are going to love and are currently enjoying. And I did a book review video on this recently, and it is Green Dot by Madeleine Gray. You can go watch the whole review. It's only like 5 minutes or something, but basically this is one of my favorite books I've read so far this year, as well as a couple more here too. I just love it. If you like Fleabag, Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney, this will be your kind of vibe. Set between Australia and the UK, and it basically follows Hera. She's in her 20s, and it follows her as the other woman in an affair. I'll leave it at there, but it is very, I was gonna say it's very good. It's beyond good. Hera is a very self-aware character, and it is just like so friggin' awesome. Read it, please. Do you have those go-to auto-buy, auto-read authors? This next one is definitely that. I came across his books, I think 3-4 years ago now, and I've just been obsessed ever since I read The Catch. I am talking about T.M. Logan. I just read his latest thriller, The Dream Home. It follows Adam and Jess. They've moved into a new home it's in Nottingham. I think what is the place they've moved into? Is it the Grove or something? And it's basically set in like this really luscious part of Nottingham, old school type of housing. It's just so gorgeous, the kind of place I would want to live. I mean, the house there probably gives you an idea of what it looks like and what he was getting a vibe off of. There's actually a video on Zafra Books' YouTube channel where he goes through what inspired him and like where it's basically set. And this is just great. It follows Adam and Jess. If I haven't said already, they've moved into their dream home, but then Adam discovers this wall and behind it is a room. Even from the get-go, the first chapter, I was like, what? Because he finds this room, breaks through it, and they're like, oh, we've got an extra room in the house. Cool. It wasn't on the floor plan when we bought it. Hey ho. And there is a wardrobe behind there with locked drawers and everything. Managed to get into it. He finds things. There's an old phone. They charge it. They contact people. They want the goods back. It all spirals from there. There's a watch as well, an expensive watch. And it's just like, he just moved into a dream home. And then following 2-3 weeks after, it's just full of like comings and goings. It still doesn't really feel like home. But this, I read this in 2 days. I could have read this in 1 because it was so gripping, but like life happens. And I just sat down and just read this nonstop. I loved this. So gripping, so compelling. I've been waiting for this since he announced it at the Harrogate Book Festival last year. Yeah, I love it. So good. If you're looking for someone who just will not let you down, I think it's like James Patterson is like that for a lot of people, but T.M. Logan, add him to your list for like crime and thrillers. So good, so compelling. And the twists in this, every chapter is like you don't know who to trust. Even like Adam and Jess, like can you trust them? They're kids, they're 3 kids. Can you trust them? Can you trust his brother-in-law? Can you trust the neighbours? Can you trust all of these kinds of people coming and going in your house, which still doesn't feel like your own? Like you find a camera hidden in the tree. It's just wild. And yeah, I love this. So many unanswered questions, but they are satisfyingly answered. And this was an easy 5 stars for me. I loved it. And the way it ended at the end, I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. On to the final 2. I have literally just filmed the video for this one. It is In Memoriam by Winn. I saw her at the Winchester Books Festival recently and she was friggin' amazing. I finished this book on the train there to the event and I had to fight hard to not let the tears out from my eyes because this is just so beautiful. I love this. It was an easy 5 star again, and along with those 2 books I've just done, this is one of my favourite books I've read so far this year. Yeah, I've basically gone into that video, my little summary video of why I love this, a little bit about the book. This is part of my 12 for 2024 in the books I want to read that have been sat on my shelf. I got this for Christmas from my boyfriend. Fun fact, she wrote this in 2 weeks. She was rejected for her previous 3 novels before she got this one published. Sorry. But yeah, this one took her 2 weeks to write the first draft and then another 1.5 years for edits. But the amount of research she does for her books, like even now, I think she said she's writing like an Arthurian legend book. The amount she must have read to make this so believable and true to form is just wild. And then she explained how she came across these papers and she just kind of felt she wrote this in the time she did, and it just kind of poured out of her, like it had to be written. She was in LA at the time, and it's kind of like when you're away from somewhere, you're longing for another place. So I think it kind of came from there as well. But like I said, this is one of the best books I've read so far this year. It won the Waterstones debut prize for fiction for 2023 for the year. I can see why. It's come out in paperback as well, so if you want to get your hands on it, do. I implore you to do so. You will not be disappointed. Now, this final one, I think I finished it a couple of days ago. This didn't take me long to read at all. I think like 3 days or something. And it is The Trading Game by Gary Stevenson, a confession. I can remember why I wanted to read this book. I came across it. My boyfriend listens to a podcast called The Rest is Politics with Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell. I'm not really into that kind of stuff, but I just listen to it. Like if I'm driving, he's got it on. And Rory Stewart was saying he had an advanced copy of this and he's done a review. And I think there's like a little quote there as well. Yeah, it's on the back there. And he was saying how there's this guy, he's got this book coming out. It's basically a memoir or a confession of where he was when in 2008, where the world banking system collapsed. I recently read a book, I think it was called Cityboy by Geraint Anderson, and it seemed like it'd be pretty similar to that. They are quite different. That one is more like, how do I say it? More the people he encountered, whereas this is more, like I said, it's a confession where he goes into how he got into banking and everything. Not so much the people, only a handful of them, and not as a whole. And not so much the drugs and everything that you might expect, because there is that connotation with it. But this is more, he goes into, I think I found it quite difficult to get my head around sometimes with the whole economics lingo, should we say, with the whole working out numbers and stuff. Numbers is not my thing. And even as he tried to explain it, I was like, is this kind of going over my head with like stocks and shares and traders? I don't know, numbers to numbers ratio. I'm a words gal. That's why I read a book. And he tries to explain it and sometimes I get it. But let me say this is pretty compelling. The economics of it all can get a bit confusing sometimes, and sometimes like the abbreviations where he tries to like say M&A, CDOs, CSOs. I don't know what that kind of stuff means. But it's real and honest review, and as the title suggests, it kind of serves as a metaphor for something as well. So he basically got into his banking job based on The Trading Game, which was a card game that he played whilst he was at LSE, so London School of Economics. There's no doubt this guy is bright. He came from East London. His dad worked for the post office, and his mum, well, I can't remember where she worked, but basically he does not come from money. He grew up poor or just making ends meet with his family, but he got into LSE, really smart, knows his numbers, and everyone around him they were very different, or he was different from them, however you want to look at it. He turned up in his trackies, they turned up in suits. And it all kind of came from when he was in his first year, he just kind of did his own thing, and then second year he came back and everyone was in suits and talking about internships and all these abbreviations, and he didn't understand. And then he found out from someone else. They're like, oh yeah, everyone's been doing internships over the summer. Why haven't you done it? You might as well pack in your degree now. And he was like, oh, I need to get on this if I want to be wealthy. And then there was this opportunity for The Trading Game where this guy came in from a bank, I think it was Citibank, and I cannot explain to you back what I read, but basically there's numbers, there are cards, I don't know, but he won. He won, and he is really super smart, explaining his feelings for everything, and basically he knew he was going to win. He played it enough times and he was going to beat the people around him who thought they were better than him. But why do I think it's also a metaphor? So it basically serves, as well as the game, it acts as a way of what else did he trade as well as the game in order to have this life as a banker. He's not really a banker, he's a trader. He got loads of money, but what do you trade in return? And it seems he traded his soul. The bank wanted his soul, and it seemed to become just madder and madder. It's crazy the kinds of individuals he did come across in this book, like the people on his desk and the way some of them would backstab each other. But then there was this guy in the corner. If you've watched Industry on BBC and Hulu, I think it is, it kind of gave me those vibes and those kinds of, when you've got the screens in front of you. But since then, so it jumps between London and then his time in Japan, but that's where he started to realise banking is not good in terms of like, we all need banks, but he could see the rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer, and there was this growing gap of inequality. And right now, so he's since quit banking, I think it was in 2012, so it was from 2008 to 2012. No, it was 2012 he wanted to quit, but this was drew out over 2 years, I think, whilst he was in Tokyo, or a year and a half, as yeah, you can see the lengths the bank go to one, keep you, but also blackmail you. And it was just a really compelling read, and at times I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Because these banks, they have money, they can do whatever they want to you, but this guy, he is smart and he played them at their own game. But yeah, I can see why people would lack them empathy with him, for someone who has profited on other people's misfortunes. They're just about paying their bills, or they can't even afford their mortgage, or paying for said mortgage is funding the bank. But then towards the end of the book, he just sees the whole injustice of it all, and these people like hardly working during the day yet making millions. And I think in the end, he doesn't draw upon it in this book, but I think he went to Cambridge or Oxford or something and studied like something to do with equality and inequality the gaps between that. And I have a feeling he might do another book on that as well, but he has since created a YouTube channel, Gary's Economics, far bigger than this channel, where he goes into the whole economics of everything, but really interesting. I like his videos. Seems like a normal guy, just from London. Yes, he's made his money, he's fully aware of that, but he's trying to raise awareness of how to bridge this gap and make it better as well, because no one else is working on it. There is an eclectic mix of characters, and this video will not draw upon it enough, just what he's trying to achieve in terms of the whole addressing the issues and everything. Yes, I really enjoyed this, and as someone who's not into maths or numbers or anything, I like this, and you might too. They're all the books I read. There are a lot of books there, so thank you if you made it this far. That's my March wrap up of books. If you like this, please hit subscribe. It'd be great to have you here. We're a growing community. It's crazy to see so many of you here, so if you like this, please hit subscribe. It would be great to have you here. Hit the like button. That's always a plus as well, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. See ya!